Recently on the HashrateUp podcast.
So if you look at FPPS, I think it's, again, a natural occurrence because Bitcoin mining, as you described, now you've got a few terahash sitting in your living room. I've got an S9 sitting idle here in my room, waiting for winter to heat my feet again. BitX running also, like Hashrate is at 840 exahash. A year ago, it was at 550 or something, right? So the network has nearly doubled in a year, again, from a basis of 500 exahash, which is massive. And of course, as the industry sort of professionalizes more, there's now, shareholders, there's big public companies, there's revenue certainty. Now FPPS is necessary to hash rate growth also, because if you want to grow and have investors, it does help if you have revenue that you can forecast. Whenever I model, hash price, okay, I'm going to get this hash price for my petahashes or whatever. Now I can, have different scenarios. What is hash price going to be? All of that is based off of FPPS. And it only really goes away, like this variance thing that FPPS solves only really goes away if your pool has enough hash rate. But to attract the hash rate in the first place, you need FPPS. So it's a bit of a hen and egg issue, right?
Yes and no. I actually think we are now past the peak, like with peak oil. At some point we're going to be past peak oil. And then, well, I've been saying that for like the past 30 years, I think, right? And apparently this is the year, or last year was the year. But truly with FPPS, that's what's going to happen. And that's because FPPS, what happened in 2017-18, when the pools changed PPLNS to FPPS, slowly but surely. And I think the last pools to fall were around 2023 with Brains after their whole riot thing. But Brains wasn't using PPLNS. They were using Score. It was known that it was a bad payment method. So they should have changed before. But anyway, I digress. What basically happened when they switched from PPLNS to FPPS is basically what happened at the beginning of the Indiana Jones movie. You got the golden statue, and Indiana Jones takes it and puts sand. That's because FPPS is not a payment method. PPLNS is a payment method. Pools are just made so that miners, it's kind of like syndicate. Miners get together and they help each other out in the bad times, so to speak. And they do this by pooling their hash rate. This way, that in total, their variance or the probability of finding a block per day goes up. So therefore, they end up finding more blocks per day, but they get a lower reward per day. So instead of getting one reward every 12 months and a very big reward, you divide that reward by 12 and get one every month, something like that. And the only thing that a pool is supposed to do is manage payments. Manage, how these guys get together and then the distribution. But FPPS is not a distribution mechanism. It's not a payment mechanism. It's an insurance policy. You're being insured against bad luck. It sounds great, but the problem with insurance policies is that they're expensive. And why are they expensive? Because insurances need a lot of capital. Everyone knows this. A PPLNS pool, we don't need capital, not really. Only to kickstart the pool, and then afterwards everything's already funded because we only distribute payments once we have gotten a block. But with FPPS, you need to have the reserves, be it in credit or be it in capital, to withstand a luck of bad streak. Bad streak luck, I think that's the correct way to say it. So, and what's the problem with that? And actually, Manny Rosenfeld's 2011 paper, everyone should read that one. It's a bit dense, but it's a magnum opus on Bitcoin mining pools. He has a formula to calculate if you want a certain percentage of your FPPS pool going bankrupt, I want a 1% chance that my pool goes bankrupt, my FPPS pool goes bankrupt. Okay, how much reserves do you need to have for how many exahash? So if you have, I don't know, Foundry, you have 35%, that means you have 300 and something, 280 or something exahash. Okay, how many Bitcoins do you need to have in order to have a lower than 1% chance of going bankrupt? And you look at the number and it's crazy. We were talking with the Nice Hash guys, and they were saying something like, for every 1 exahash, multiply the block subsidy by 100. So now it will be something like 300. Bitcoins. For every exahash you have in FPPS, if you want a 1% chance of going bankrupt, that was kind of like the rule of thumb. Of course, it's not precise, but more or less. So tell me how much Bitcoin they need to have on reserve if you have 280 exahash, right? And then tell me what's the capital cost of that. That's why most of the miners, right? Well, most of the miners, every miner that's mining with Foundry this month has gotten a fee increase. Because if you have to get even a 4%, 3% return on 200,000 Bitcoins, well, that's not going to be cheap. That's not going to be cheap. Someone has to pay for that. And the pool, they either bring the cost, like they pass the cost on to the miner, or they go bankrupt as they eat up their own capital. So there's no way around it. And that's the problem with FPPS. And that's why I say that we're past peak. Because there's the second part. That's just, give me a second. I'm finishing with this one. Because that's just the first part. Because right now you'd say, okay, yeah, but they're very big. They got good capital of that. Okay, yeah. But the problem with that is that an insurance policy, the higher the volatility or the higher the variance, the more expensive it gets. Because it gets more volatile. You need more reserves to like insure against that. Now, what's happening with Bitcoin mining? Oops, every 4 years we get a halving. And with the halving, the stable part of the payout, the Coinbase reward, the block subsidy, goes down. It literally halves. So as time goes on, we're going to be relying more and more on the volatility of fees to sustain our operations. And the problem with that is that they're very volatile. So that means that their costs, their capital costs, they will increase exponentially. They will go over 9,000 if you're a Dragon Ball Z fan, you know? So
have we seen
if it's not dead yet, it's going to be dead in the next 20 years.